Good morning. So I'm very delighted to be here to talk to you about decision making. So we make many decisions on a daily basis, ranging from very trivial decisions, for example, whether you should attend this early morning talk, to very important decisions such as your career or your marriage. So how do we make all these kind of decisions? So from a very economic point of view, it's not working. Okay. So we make all these decisions in order to maximize our kind of self-interest. So exactly how we do that is that we calculate the expected utility by taking into account the probability and the magnitude of the reward. And then we choose the options that can maximize our self-interest. But in reality, in many situations, we do not make all these kind of rational decisions. As the two Nobel Prize winners have already described, there is a list of decision biases, for example, framing effect, loss of fortune, mental accounting, and all these kind of decisions we made are quite biased. So in our lab, we use neuroimaging method to study the neural basis of all these kind of decision biases. So we think one reason we make all these kind of irrational decisions is probably because we have emotions, right? So we have all these kind of basic emotions when we encoding stimuli or when we experience those outcomes. I think some people may already have heard this kind of Solomon paradigm. So basically, this is a very common phenomenon. So Solomon is a wise person, but he is only wise when he makes decisions for other people, but not for himself. So people often reason very wisely when they encounter other people's social problems, but not their own problems. So one way to dissociate or differentiate emotion from cognition is that we can study decision-making for yourself versus decision-making for others or on behalf of others. So we designed this paradigm to look at lying for yourself versus lying for other people. So there are two conditions. In the no opportunity condition, so basically participants just need to predict whether the coin will be tail or head. So the participant need to register their decisions, so either head or tail. And then they receive the feedback. So if the prediction is consistent with the feedback, they will get reward. So this is called a no opportunity condition because you need to pre-register your response. So there is no opportunity to lie to the experimenter. So in the opportunity condition, actually participants only need to make the predictions in the mind. So they just press a random button. So in that case, there is no way experimenter can verify whether the participant make the correct prediction or not. So in the end, participants just need to report that whether their response was correct or not, and then they can get rewarded. So we also have the self and donation condition. Basically, in the self condition, you make decisions for yourself, and in the donation condition, you make decisions for the charity. So the money won't go to, you are not the beneficiary. So what would you predict? Of course, people do lie sometimes. So in the no opportunity condition, you can see that your performance is at the chance level. But in the opportunity condition, you can see the performance is way above chance level, suggesting that participants that do lie in the experiment. The interesting finding is that in the self condition, participants lied even more than in the donation condition. So we call this self-serving kind of dishonesty. So when we look at the neuroimaging data, we can see from the contrast in the self versus the donation condition, the stratum was more activated, and this activation was correlated with the self-serving dishonesty. So when we look at closely, you can see that this is only significant in the opportunity condition. So if you use the opportunity self minus the opportunity donation condition, you can see strong activations in the stratum. And again, this is correlated with self-serving dishonesty. Using psychophysiological interaction analysis, we can see the functional connectivity between stratum and also middle media PFC was significantly modulated by the psychological context. And this kind of functional connectivity was, again, correlated with the degree of self-serving dishonesty. So all these findings suggest that when we make decisions for ourselves, especially in the context of lying, there are stronger kind of reward-related activations. And the kind of the interactions between reward regions and also the cognitive control networks determines how much self-serving bias we have in this kind of context. So in our real social life, who frequently make decisions on behalf of others? So many leaders, right? So the issue with leaders is the majority of them are pretty old. So very few people can be leaders as young as Kim from North Korea. So most of the leaders you can see is like this. And this is the average age of the world leaders. So they are way above 50. So the majority of them are kind of above 60. So the next step is to look at this kind of self-other differentiation between the young and the old group. So we first look at the loss of fortune phenomenon. So this is a very common phenomenon in neuroeconomics. So basically, we know that losses loom larger than gains, right? So in economics, basically we use this kind of gambling task to precisely measure the degree of loss of fortune. So basically in this task, you also flip a coin. So basically you have a 50 chance of getting the reward or lose the money. So you can choose either to play the game or you can choose not to play the game. So we parametrically manipulate the magnitude of potential win and also the magnitude of potential loss. So in this case, we can, using computation modeling to precisely calculate the degree of loss of fortune. So we use this hierarchy-based analysis. So we calculate the expected utility of gain, the expected utility of loss. So as we know, we have this kind of loss of fortune effect. So we have the lambda to quantify the degree of loss of fortune. So we also have another parameter, the tau, to measure behavior consistency. So in this model, we also care about the difference between self and other. So the delta lambda captures the difference between the self and others. So as we can see from this figure, so this is the difference between the young, the self and other. You can see for the young group, they are quite significantly different from zero, meaning that they have lower lambda for others, suggesting that young people they have more loss of fortune when they make decisions for themselves versus making decisions for others. So we don't see any differences in the older group. And also the difference between the old and young conditions are quite significant. So this figure shows that for the loss of fortune in the young group, they do differentiate the self and other condition. But in the older group, they do not differentiate the self and other. So this is only specific for the loss of fortune. For choice consistency, you don't see these kind of differences. So loss of fortune is also related to risk-taking. So we also look at in the risk-taking domain. So we use this gambling task. Basically, we parametrically manipulate the probability of getting the reward. So basically, only one cup have the reward. So the more cups you have, the lower the chance you can get the reward. So we also parametrically manipulate the magnitude of the potential reward. So in this case, we can use this generalized linear mixed effect regression to capture the risk-taking parameters in the loss domain and also in the win domain. So we can controlling for the magnitude and look at the effect of probability. We also control the probability to look at the effect of magnitude. Again, you can see the huge differences between the self and other in the younger group. So for younger adults, you can see they are more kind of risk-taking when they make decisions for others. But in the older group, older adults, you can see that there's no such differences. So this is controlling the probability, and we look at the magnitude. So similar effect can be found when you control the magnitude and you look at the effect of probability. So across a series of studies, we can see that when we make decisions for others, they are quite different from when we make decisions for yourself. So we not only experience like different emotions when we encounter these kind of more certain situations. So in many situations, we can anticipate we are going to experience different emotions. So one phenomenon related to this one is the default bias. We know in some countries, people are default, they are organ donors by default, and in other countries, they are not organ donors by default. I think in China, we are not organ donors by default. But in many European countries, people are organ donors. You can see the huge effect of these kind of default differences. So in countries where people are organ donors by default, the effective consent rate, they are very, very high compared with the countries people are not, in which people are not organ donors by default. So this is very strong kind of default biases. Can we capture this effect in our experiment? So we use the similar idea and design the gambling task. So basically, participants are assigned to one of the options, and they have the option to either stay with the default option or switch to the new option. So basically, at the behavior level, we can see people are more likely to stick with the default option. And after they switch, actually, when they win the reward, they feel happier. And when they lose the reward, they feel much more kind of unhappy about the outcomes. So suggesting that deviating from the default options actually amplify the emotional responses. So at the decision stage, you can see this kind of amplified emotion, anticipatory emotions can predict the choices. So in the outcome, at the outcome stage, we can confirm that actually for losses after switching active the insular stronger than losses after staying. And also for the reward condition, outcomes, you can also see the amplified stratum activities for the winning after switching versus the winning after staying. So all these studies, they kind of suggest that our emoji play an important role in our decisions. So I would like to thank my funding agencies and my teams. So the very important key information is that we are recruiting postdocs and PhDs. So if you are interested, please contact me. Thank you.